At 10:26 a.m. local time, Ukrainian forces initiated a long-range strike mission over the Sea of Azov, launching a single Liuti drone without escort or supporting aircraft. According to operational data, the unmanned system turned east immediately after takeoff, beginning a timed approach toward a Russian IL-38N maritime patrol aircraft positioned on a concrete apron hundreds of miles away. The target, outfitted with the NV-9 electronic intelligence pod, was assessed as the only airborne sensor platform in the region capable of detecting and classifying low-altitude strike profiles similar to the one being executed. The Ukrainian objective centered not only on disabling an expensive asset, but on neutralizing a critical node in Russia's regional surveillance architecture. Satellite imagery captured 6 hours earlier showed ground crews preparing the IL-38N for flight, removing engine covers and carrying out final maintenance. Estimates indicated the aircraft could become airborne around 1 p.m., setting a strict countdown against which the Ukrainian operation was calibrated. Mission planners calculated the drone's distance to target at roughly 174 miles, with a cruise speed of 135 miles per hour. The resulting 76-minute flight window framed the period in which Russian forces would have limited ability to detect or respond to the inbound threat. Ukrainian operational staff emphasized the cost asymmetry of the engagement. The Liuti platform, a comparatively modest machine with composite skin and a turbojet engine designed for range, was deployed against an aircraft worth tens of millions of dollars, and, more critically, against the strategic awareness that aircraft provided. The mission reflected a larger pattern observed in previous Ukrainian operations, underscoring how precision strikes against key systems can generate broad operational effects. Inside the Ukrainian command center, planning and execution followed a pre-modeled structure. Analysts monitored telemetry, fuel levels, and environmental data as the drone descended to 165 feet over winter seas. At that altitude, the aircraft exploited the curvature of the Earth to remain beneath the radar horizon of ground-based search systems. Radar beams passed overhead, and long-range detection arrays across the region showed no inbound track or elevation change. As the drone continued across open water, the environment provided its primary concealment. The low-altitude flight profile relied not on advanced stealth or jamming, but on geometric factors that masked the drone from Russian radars positioned dozens of miles away. For the duration of the water crossing, Ukrainian analysts assessed that math, rather than countermeasures, was providing the drone's strongest protection. Meanwhile, on the Russian side, long-range surveillance assets remained unaware of the approaching threat, with displays showing only stable sea clutter and no signs of incoming activity. Russian detection capabilities shifted when acoustic sensors along the Krasnodar coastline registered anomalies. These nodes, mounted on civilian infrastructure and equipped with omnidirectional microphones and embedded processors, were designed to detect aircraft signatures through detailed frequency analysis. At 11:47 a.m., one such node recorded a spike 53 decibels above ambient noise levels. Two additional sensors confirmed the reading within seconds, enabling triangulation with an estimated accuracy of approximately 150 feet. While radar systems continued to show no trace of the drone, Russia now had an initial bearing derived solely from acoustic data. The information was relayed to multiple layers of Russian air defenses, including a Tor M2 battery equipped with 9 M338 surface-to-air missiles, a Pantsir SM system, and an S-400 battery positioned farther inland. These systems, typically designed to track high-speed, high-altitude aircraft, were forced to rely on sound-derived coordinates as no radar lock or thermal signature was available. Analysts described the unfolding situation as an example of cost inversion, where a low-cost drone imposed activity across a much more expensive defensive architecture. The TOR-M2 unit attempted to establish radar acquisition, but encountered severe limitations. The drone's altitude of approximately 100 feet created an elevation angle too low for effective detection. Ground clutter, including reflections from terrain, agricultural structures, and small elevation shifts, obscured the radar return. To acquire a target at such a low altitude, the drone would have needed to enter a narrow engagement corridor less than a mile from the launcher, leaving only seconds for the system to react. None of the defending units achieved a consistent radar track as the drone advanced toward land. Russia adjusted tactics as the situation developed. At 11:59 a.m., a Jaran 2 unmanned aerial vehicle equipped with a modified 9K-333 Verba infrared guided missile took position overhead. The Verba missile, designed for man-portable air defense roles, employed a tri-channel seeker capable of distinguishing engine exhaust from other heat sources. With a unit cost significantly higher than the Gerran airframe itself, the pairing represented an improvised airborne defense attempt intended to address the failure of ground-based radar systems. As the Liuti drone approached a ridgeline, its engine exhaust briefly contrasted against the winter sky. The Verba missile achieved lock at a distance of 4.5 miles, and the operator issued the fire command. The missile accelerated rapidly, governed by proportional navigation aimed at predicting the drone's future position. However, the Liuti, following its pre-programmed route, descended into a narrow stream bed. This terrain masking maneuver occurred automatically, without operator input. The missile followed but encountered interference when its magnetic proximity fuse reacted to metallic objects embedded in the soil, including remnants of agricultural equipment. The warhead detonated prematurely, with fragmentation impacting the ground rather than the drone. The Liuti cleared the area approximately 50 yards ahead of the blast, and the Gerran 2 proved unable to pursue due to its lower speed. As the drone continued its approach, the focus shifted to target identification. Upon descending through 100 feet near the airfield perimeter, the Liuti's onboard computer transitioned from navigation mode to visual recognition. Its camera system, supported by a convolutional neural network trained on extensive image datasets, analyzed two nearly identical aircraft positioned on the concrete apron. Both bore similar structural characteristics, but only one carried the NV-9 electronic intelligence pod. The system measured pixel alignment, shadow geometry, and fuselage contours to distinguish the correct target. Initial analysis produced a 94% confidence level, rising to 97% as the drone closed to 60 yards. Upon confirmation, encrypted authorization codes were transmitted, validating the strike. Final approach procedures accounted for minor obstructions on the airfield, including equipment position since the last satellite imagery update. The drone's flight computer adjusted course by 3 degrees to maintain alignment. Traveling low and fast, the drone prepared its directional airburst warhead, engineered to disperse high-velocity steel fragments in a focused, downward cone. The radar altimeter armed the fuse at a preset height, timing the detonation to maximize damage to the targeted aircraft's critical systems rather than to its surrounding infrastructure. By 12:15 p.m. and 21 seconds, the Liuti drone crossed the designated strike point. With all parameters aligned and confidence level confirmed, the weapon system initiated detonation at the calculated elevation, releasing fragmentation at speeds approaching 6,000 feet per second. According to operational objectives, the strike aimed not to produce widespread destruction, but to disable the aircraft's specialized electronic suite, thereby removing a key surveillance asset from the region. Following the strike sequence, Ukrainian planners assessed the operation as part of a wider campaign focused on the disruption of strategic systems rather than on the destruction of infrastructure alone. The IL-38N maritime patrol aircraft, equipped with the NV-9 electronic intelligence module, represented a central component of Russia's regional surveillance capability. Its loss or incapacitation, whether temporary or permanent, carried implications for early warning, submarine detection, and low-altitude threat classification across the Sea of Azov and adjacent airspace. Analysts noted that removing such a platform from the operational environment could reduce Russia's ability to monitor Ukrainian activity along multiple vectors, particularly during periods of increased cross-border tension. The engagement also highlighted ongoing adaptations in both countries' military approaches. Ukraine's use of a single long-range drone against a high-value target demonstrated reliance on cost-efficient systems capable of penetrating layered defenses through altitude control, terrain masking, and predictive mission planning. The operation drew comparisons to earlier precision strikes, including those directed at energy infrastructure, where disrupting a key node resulted in broader operational effects. Strategic observers pointed to a consistent pattern. Ukrainian forces continued prioritizing missions where timing, geometry, and system vulnerabilities aligned, rather than relying on massed formations or high-cost platforms. On the Russian side, the response underscored gaps in detection capabilities against low-altitude threats. While long-range radars and high-value air defense batteries remained capable of engaging complex aerial targets at significant distances, the Liuti drone maneuvered below the radar horizon, bypassing early warning systems designed for conventional aircraft profiles. The subsequent reliance on acoustic detection indicated that Russian forces were diversifying sensor networks to compensate for limits in electromagnetic tracking. However, the engagement revealed that integrating such acoustic cues into indirect fire control solutions remained challenging, especially when the drone's altitude and terrain features restricted radar acquisition windows. The improvised deployment of a Geran-2 UAV armed with a Verba infrared missile illustrated the degree of tactical adaptation underway within Russian units. The pairing of a loitering platform with a man-portable air defense weapon created a stopgap measure intended to provide airborne interception capability at low altitude. But the failed engagement highlighted constraints tied to fuse sensitivity, seeker performance near ground clutter, and speed differentials between the interceptor platform and its target. Observers noted that while improvisation may offer temporary solutions, the encounter showed structural difficulties in countering pre-programmed low-altitude drones using existing missile systems. The strike's immediate consequences centered on the IL-38N's electronic systems. The directional airburst warhead was engineered to focus fragmentation downward, targeting sensitive components such as the NV-9 pod, cockpit instrumentation, and mission electronics. Analysts reported that a successful detonation at the correct elevation could disable the aircraft's operational capacity, even without destroying the airframe itself. Damage assessments, pending independent verification, suggested that disabling the sensor suite would significantly reduce Russia's ability to conduct maritime reconnaissance and electronic surveillance in the region. Broader strategic implications emerged as military observers evaluated the cost dynamics of the engagement. The Liuti drone, a comparatively low-cost asset, compelled multiple layers of Russian air defense, including systems valued at tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, to react without achieving successful interception. This imbalance reinforced discussions about the growing role of expendable unmanned systems in modern conflict, where precision guidance and mission planning enable relatively inexpensive platforms to threaten sophisticated, high-value assets. Regional analysts cautioned that similar engagements could shape future doctrine by incentivizing investment in distributed sensor networks, rapid detection systems, and counter-drone technologies. The operation also underscored the escalating importance of timing in the conflict. Ukrainian planners initiated the strike within a narrow window before the IL-38N's anticipated takeoff. According to mission data, the 76-minute flight time of the drone aligned precisely with the aircraft's projected preparation cycle. This synchronization aimed to neutralize the target before it entered an airborne posture that would complicate interception efforts. The emphasis on timing demonstrated how coordinated analysis of satellite imagery, environmental conditions, and flight modeling contributed to mission execution. As assessments continued, the strike was viewed within the wider context of ongoing hostilities and evolving military strategies. While the incident involved a single drone and a single aircraft, both sides recognized the broader operational message. For Ukraine, the mission reinforced a commitment to undermining key surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities. For Russia, it underscored the need to refine defensive measures against low-altitude, radar-evading platforms. Analysts concluded that the engagement highlighted an emerging battlespace where precision, data integration, and system-level vulnerabilities increasingly dictate the outcomes of encounters traditionally defined by aircraft and missile performance. For continued updates on this development,